So the big question is this. How entrepreneurs like us who have been breaking with old beliefs, like the idea of holding a 9-to-5 job and living paycheck to paycheck, taking a lifetime to reach business and life success as the only option we have? How do we grow our business in a way that lets us highly service our customers, getting our products and services and the things that we believe in out into the world without diluting our life but enhancing it and taking the journey of internal and external growth? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. Your host is Marina Simon, and welcome to 10 Exit. Life and business as usual? Never again.
We start. All right, so hello. Help me introduce a very special speaker we have today. We got him in the middle of driving, so we got him there. His name is Walter Matthews. He is the founder of Skyway Bound Aviation Services. Walter landed in the Tampa Bay area after completing a 20-year career in the United States Navy. That's awesome. His journey to make aviation more accessible to students began shortly thereafter. His love for aviation began in elementary school. Similar to many, at that time, he didn't know where to begin. So he enlisted in the military in his late teens. Eventually, the Navy sent him to earn a university degree via the Navy ROTC, which is Reserve Officers Training Course. Scholarship, that's right, in his early 20s. It's during this time in the Navy, he started on his path towards the world of aviation. So while beginning his aviation journey in his late 20s, he didn't receive his certified flight instructor until later in life. And he says, I quote, "I'm at a point of my life where I'm looking to help the next generation see the growing opportunities within the aviation industry. I want to help them find the industry quicker than I did. I'm also happy to be working in one of the best offices of the world, an aircraft. Just can't beat that view every day." I agree with you. When he's not flying with Sentinel students, he can be found dancing Argentine tango at a local malonga or volunteer at his local church. So help me welcome Walter Matthews. Hi, Walter.
Hey, what's going on? Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you so much for being here today. Well, my friend, so we were talking just prior to the interview of your passion of following a dream that you had for a very long time. So
Right.
tell me a little bit of highlights of this story. This podcast flow power to those individuals who really, which is all of us, right? We have a dream, big, small, whatever we want to call it, and some decide to go and chase for it without considerations, and some we back off about it for the uncertainties if we're going to be able to make it or not. And it caught my attention because in one prior interview, you talk about it. And I so want to share this with our audience, because if we really follow what we really love in life and makes our heart beat, we can really create also a living out of things. So tell me a little bit about your story. How did it came about, and how did you end up really following your passion in life?
Yeah, absolutely. So you read my bio about how I went through ROTC. I always wanted to fly. I even enlisted in the military, knowing that was a path for me to get a scholarship and put me on the path towards becoming a pilot. It just so happened that, it all kind of eventually fell into place. It didn't fall into place when I wanted it to fall into place, but it all eventually worked out, and I did become a pilot. I'm actually a wing naval aviator.
Wow.
It just so happens I wasn't able to complete my career in naval aviation, but I will always be naval aviator number 25256. I have that nice, bright, shiny gold wings that I earned, and they said I could keep them, so I'm keeping them. But
awesome.
It's been a long journey, and it took me many years to come back around to the world of aviation after they released me from it professionally. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I turned to got my flight instructor certificate. I wish I would have started earlier. But as I'm doing it now and wondering what took me so long, I just don't have time to wonder what took me so long. I just glad I did it. And I just encourage people to, you don't have to reach your dream today, but just take one step every day to try to reach it, no matter how small. And I think that's what spurred you to call me. You were explaining to me that, I tell people, if you can only do 5 minutes, that's 5 minutes more than you did yesterday. Every minute counts. Every minute adds up when you learn something new that's going to get you moving in the direction that you want to move. And so I just encourage people. Everybody thinks I have to have it perfect. I have to have all these structures in place. No, just start something. Yes, you do have to have some structures in place. You need to do things right. But there's a lot of research that a lot of people underestimate that they need. They just don't understand how much reading and how much maybe YouTube video watching that they're going to have to do to really get their business going. And it's a lot. So, okay, so you don't have the money now, but most of you guys have access to Wi-Fi. If you don't, go to your public library that give you free Wi-Fi. You can do, there's a lot of things you can do to at least start researching what you're trying to accomplish, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that you need to learn if you want to turn it into a business. And you can start doing that today. And like I said, it doesn't take much, and it doesn't cost you. All it costs you is your time. If you don't have time, I bet you can find 5 minutes. You can find five minutes. You got a family, you got kids, you got to go to the bathroom sometime. I know they say don't take your phone, but hey, you want to start this business, take your phone. And start researching. But 5 minutes a day, just start taking the first steps. I encourage people to start now, because once you lose this time, you can't get that time back. So start something today.
That's right. Thank you. It takes discipline. I bet, like some of us, you might be watching, and then either, you do things like watching TV or waiting for something. And 5 minutes, as you say, we can always find it and put some discipline. You don't have to unlock your work, but at least start putting some energy of life towards what you want to accomplish. That is so true. And listen, we know so many success stories of people who have done that and have succeeded. I guess the difference truly is that some people do chase their dream and put that attention on those things. And some others, kind of like don't seem it is possible. Okay, thank you. So I know you're an entrepreneur. So tell me something. What is the hardest thing you ever done as an entrepreneur?
Oh, the hardest thing. That's a question I really haven't thought about. Maybe just getting started. I mean, it wasn't really hard, but definitely getting started. I will say trying to build momentum and get over whatever personal. I don't want to call it fear, because I don't really fear doing it. Actually, I take that back. I mean, I think I had some fear. A few years ago, I gave myself a hard stop. I've got this much money saved up over from 20 years of serving in the military. And once that money runs out, I'm going to go get a regular corporate job. Well, it's been well over that was 2017.
Wow.
It's been well over 2 years, and that money's gone. But what I'm finding is that was a way for me to jump. There's a famous guy, I think he used to do Family Feud, the comedian, Steve Harvey. I love his video about talking to people, encouraging people to jump. That was one way that I jumped. I'm fully committed. You're going to have to, I'm not going back to the cubicles. I refuse. But I have jumped, and I am finding creative ways to stay afloat, finding creative ways to put food on my table. It's not easy, but I'm finding ways. And if I have to go get a part-time, if I have to sweep floors and clean, fortunately I haven't had to do that because that's not something I enjoy. But if I had to do it, I would go and do it, because that's how much I want to make my dreams come to life. And I've been able to find odd jobs and working in the world of entrepreneurship. I've been able to network and meet people. Friends here and there have been able to give me little odd things to help them out with, little consulting gigs, if you will, to help them out a little bit. And just finding ways to make it happen. And along the way, I'm making headway step by step by step. And the other thing I would say too is I'm not comparing myself to, Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and all those other people. It's a waste of time. Wasting my energy. I'm not going to waste my energy, comparing myself to a billionaire. If I don't become a billionaire, great. But you know what? I'm having a good time. I wake up, I look at my schedule, I see who's flying with me that day. Everything I'm trying to accomplish, why it hasn't all happened, it's progressing and it's happening. And I have cracked the cash flow seal. And it's just a matter of time before I don't have to do any other side things.
Makes sense. And these guys didn't start it being a billionaire, right? They started like many of us, and they just make it happen. And at the end of the day, sometimes, money is good too. Of course, you're producing it because you want that energy to provide for your life. But I think also it's important to have fun while you're doing it. That's why you chase your passions, right? To really enjoy what you do.
Absolutely.
And the other thing you were mentioning is fear. It's interesting, talking to several people, throughout life, I realized even the guys on the toppest chain of the chains, right? We all go through fear, but we use fear differently. It's like some turn it into passion and into fuel, and some turn it into freeze motion that you cannot continue to operate. So it's also kind of like a decision. Having fear, it's normal, right? It's the unknown is what you're going to do. But if you use them positively, like you say, hey, sometimes, okay, I have to put food on the table, especially if you're creating a family, right? And but you can turn it into a positive energy to push you forward, not backwards.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Now, let me ask you another question. What is one of the biggest lessons you've learned on this adventure?
Oh, wow. I do like everybody else. I need to write a book and take notes. But I will say one of the biggest things is it doesn't have to be perfect. Start now. Start now. You will find ways to get creative to move forward in your dream. What other lessons? Yes, money is important, but you can find it. You just have to, that's where all the research is going to come in. That's where all the research is going to really help you come in. You do need to network. For people who say they don't like to network, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised that, you're already networking. We network. If you know another person, you have a family member, that's a network. So you might not want to formally network, but you have a network and they can help you. And a lot of times they want to help you. And it doesn't necessarily mean they might have money for you, but they might know somebody that has some piece of knowledge that can help you move in direction. As I reflect on my entrepreneurial journey, I just see all the people that maybe I only had one interaction with them, but during that one, it's like the movies. The typical hero's journey that you always hear about.
The hero's journey, yes.
Yeah, you go meet this one person. You don't know why you met this person, but you end up leaving the conversation with a new idea for what you're trying to accomplish, something to add to it. It is your own hero's journey. And we all have a movie, but keep moving forward. Just start and do network. You're already networking. Open your eyes to the network that you have around you. You'd be very, very surprised at who you know.
Yeah, I can see that totally. The other day I was interviewing a beautiful lady, and she said something that stick with me. The new coin these days, besides being money, it is relationships and connections and people and really knowing people, not just having a bunch of list of names, but really getting to know people. That is the worth and the value, and you feed each other. Like you say, it might take you to the next person that you need to meet in order to get to fly your business, or it can change your life in different ways and give you so much value, Yeah, networking.
Yeah. And, and a good way to network, which I totally never, I guess it wasn't meant for me to see it when I was younger, but I see it now, is, all these conferences that that you can't afford to go to, they need volunteers. I never do that. I thought they paid all those people, but they don't. They need volunteers. They pay some of the people, but they don't pay the majority of those people. They need volunteers. If you're trying to get somewhere where you can network, volunteer for one of these business conferences, and you'll be surprised at who you're going to meet. Make sure when you go there, of course, that you're true to your commitment, because people will remember if you're not. But volunteering, I'm like on the what do you call it? The soapbox. Like volunteer at these conferences, because you're going to meet a lot of good people that do want to help you, even if it's just with some advice. I mean, the simple fact is, most of us don't have anything. Like, we all want to get the ear of like these CEOs and these super duper entrepreneurs that made a lot, but they don't have time. I mean, if they would help you, they should, but they just don't have time. But where you can eventually help, you find a way to help them and provide value to them, then eventually you might be able to work your way into their world, if you will. And that's one of the other big things that's probably one of the biggest things that really my eyes have been open to is,
wow,
help others. If you help others, even if it's on a volunteer basis, just help others. You'll be surprised at how big your world starts to open up. I've always been a good person and a nice person, but especially in my 20s, I was, I'm too busy to do this volunteer activity. And I'm talking about, like, just even volunteer at your church. These little nonprofits that need help, that's a great way to network too. Volunteer at those. I mean, if you're not ready to go to a formal business event, go to a nonprofit event and volunteer for them. I mean, you will be surprised at that people need help. If you help them, your world just starts to open, and it's amazing. People think all rich people are snobby. There are a lot of really, really generous, wealthy people, and they're just so given in their time, especially to these worthy causes, and they're just such good people. There are good people in the world, by the way. That's the other thing. You have to look for them.
I love that. It is so true. We listen to so bad news in nowadays, right? But there's so many good people in the world that makes you feel everything is filled with bad people. That's not true. It is so true what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good tools. Pardon me?
I said, yeah, get out there and help. Get out there and help. You'll meet.
That's right. Yeah, it's one of the best ways to learn as well, and to meet new valuable people. So I was looking at your bio. So you volunteer at your church. Tell me a little bit about it, to share with other people that are listening to us. What do you do? How do people, welcome you, and the flow of help that you give them?
Okay, yeah. So I worship with the Northwest Church of Christ on Sheldon Avenue in the Town and Country area of not St. Petersburg, Tampa. They actually have a Northwest Church of Christ in St. Petersburg too, but I worship with the one in Tampa, and just a good group of folks. We have it's very, very giving congregation, one of the friendliest places I've ever been. I haven't gone on the mission trip to Honduras, but I definitely want to do that in the future. We have like a lot of events to help those less fortunate in the local surrounding neighborhoods. Like we have like a school supply giveaway. Pre-COVID, we had tutoring for children. I'm not sure how we're going to get that going again, but we definitely want to make sure we do that and get that going again in the future. I used to volunteer at that, and then of course they need people that just do basic like the church service. Volunteer to help with the church service. I mean, that takes people. So I volunteer. Now, some people just don't want to do it, or they have a fear of getting up in front, and they just don't do it. Sometimes they call me, and then, I volunteer because, you hope it's just the right thing to do. But it's a great congregation, and I encourage anybody if they want to visit. I'm always there. You can usually find me in the back, and feel free to come visit.
That is awesome. It is true, especially as I said, in these times when one is feeling kind of like down and you're listening to all these like quote unquote, things that are happening around. But if you go and help, you realize how beautiful the world is. The people's heart is. It's true. Like really, it changes. I think it takes it from hearing it from others. Of course, you know what's happening, but also the fact that you can create and you have good people and that we need each other. And that's the way to operate more than ever in these times. So thank you for sharing that. Now I have a question. How did you end up dancing tango?
That's a whole nother podcast. But the short story is...
Give us the short one.
The short story is I was in graduate school and I was the only single guy in a small cohort of fellow military members. One guy walks in one day and he says, hey, he invited us all to go dancing, but he looks over at me and he goes, I need you to go dance with my wife because I hate dancing. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Dave, if you ever hear this. But but they took me to a swing dance event. What came out of that is I took private lessons. In the back of my mind, by the time I got done with graduate school, I was like, I've always wanted to do something Latin-based. And so I connected with a group of friends on the East Coast when I got stationed there. And we were actually supposed to go to salsa. I was in a unit that got deployed all of a sudden. And so while I was gone, my dance partner and friend, she took her first tango lesson and was hooked. And she literally messaged me and said, I'm hooked. Can we change dances? And I was like, okay. I didn't have a clue. And when I returned, I actually went to my first lesson with her neighbor because she couldn't go that first night. And I was hooked. And it's been a love ever since then. I mean, that was like, holy cow, that was a long time ago. That was probably 2008, 9, 10-ish. I think in that range
wow.
is when I was introduced. And it is hands down my favorite dance. I can't really describe it to people. You have to experience it yourself. And that's another place that I've met a lot of really nice people. And unfortunately, COVID has kind of slowed down the amount of events that we have here, but they're slowly kind of coming back. So I'm very happy to see that.
Nice. Yeah, your life is a little bit of like, an example for me of doing the things you like. And, yes, we have a life, we have responsibilities. We always will have tos, right? We have to do. But if you also make yourself a little time of to learn something new, to meet new people, it's just those little things that really make life a little different and create that spark, that sometimes we're looking for when sometimes life gets a little rough, that is a great tip just to find something you love, either sports, dance, reading, I don't know, getting into a group, a meetup, or whatever thing is your passion, photography, right? So listen, regarding more about entrepreneurship, is there anything else you want to share with our audience? Any piece of information that they can apply today? Anything else we have left behind? Because you have dropped a couple of good jewels. Networking and volunteering.
Yeah, I think get started today, even if it's 5 minutes. I mean, so many people make it, there are no excuses in the end. When you either have done it or tried it, at least try. Just try. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I just seeing people that have waited so long and then like maybe physically they can't, for example, fly. They will never be able to fly solo. They'll always have to, they can fly. They can fly with me and they can pay me to, sit there in the other seat and be their co-pilot. But they won't be able to obtain an FAA certification, medical certification to fly on their own. It's
right.
And you can hear in their voice, like, I wish I would have did this. Wish I would have did this sooner. And you can just hear that it's not complete regret because a lot of them, they've done a lot of great things in their lives, but there is that little bit of regret. And then you can see it in other people's eyes sometimes when you're talking to them and I'm so excited about what I'm doing. And, they're like, I'm going to a job I hate, every day. And they're, you just try try to encourage them. Just start. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it's going to take time. It's not easy to build a business, for one. All these people that you see, the Bezos and the Zuckerberg, people forget Zuckerberg, his journey towards where he got, even though it happened when he was young, he started that. I mean, he was a kid when he started preparing for where he's at today. People forget that. I mean, he had actually been doing computers for a long time by the time he got to, college.
Right.
It wasn't new to him. And
right.
Bezos was a highly successful New York City, Wall Street kind of dude. And, he saw an opportunity and took his peanuts and sunk them into what we all know as Amazon, making him, I think he is the richest or second richest. I can't remember.
Second. Elon Musk goes first. I love Elon.
Yeah, that's another story of just doing, trying to make things happen and just start. Don't wait. And even if you can only do it a minute, 5 minutes, you can steal time for yourself. Like I said, if you go to the bathroom and lock the door for 5 minutes, take your phone and do
there
research.
You go. It is so true, Walter. What a fun interview. Listen, well, now I want to ask you a couple of questions that are more like interesting things. And I want you to tell me if some of them, are true or what. So how many pilots are necessary per flight? Like, it depends on the airplane. Do you always need a pilot and a co-pilot, or not necessarily?
No, I fly what's called general aviation aircraft. Typically, you have a single pilot in those. Now, something like the big, like you're flying the airlines, for the airlines, those are, need to require 2 pilots. Okay. But I wouldn't be surprised in the future as the systems continue to get better. Those will either be single pilot, and even maybe after we're gone, they'll probably be drone, like unmanned.
That is
but
so true.
I don't think we're there yet, but it's headed that way.
Yeah, that was my next question. Do you know if you can leave the cockpit if you leave it on autopilot, or no? You still have to be there.
Well, in a lot of small aircraft, you can't. There's nowhere to go, and you wouldn't want to do that anyway as a single pilot. If you did have that, if you were able to do that, you definitely wouldn't want to do that, because you're there for a reason. The systems, they're good, but I wouldn't put my life in the hands of the systems. If the systems don't have hands, but
right, but you could, right? That's why it's autopilot, but it's just not necessary at this point.
Well, it's illegal, but I think it goes against FAA
okay,
regulations.
It's illegal. Okay.
I'm sure people have tried it in the past, but the aircraft I fly, I could, they're too small. There's nowhere for me to go. I mean, I can't just.
Right. It's like, okay. So next question: how do you start a plane? Like, do you start it like a button? That's it. Boom.
No, that's a good question. We have a key in the ignition, and we don't have a foot gas pedal, but we have a little hand throttle, and there's some controls that we use with our hands. So you use your hands, but it doesn't drive like a car. You don't steer a plane like this, especially on the ground. You got to have wind going over the wings before you can use what's called the aileron. Most of your steering on the ground is with your feet, and using and manipulating the power and your gas with the throttle. And the Cessna is like this little knob. Some have like a little hand lever, but yeah, that's how you do it.
So the throttle is on your hand as comparison to the car. Exactly. Got it. Thank you. Now, can a commercial pilot fly all aircraft models, or there's different differences, between model and model?
Well, it's not so much about the model; it's the types. For example, like I am not rated. Like I can't just go to the airline and ask for a job. One, I don't have enough hours, and 2, I don't have the ratings. So there's a lot of specialized training. However, I can fly different models of manufacturers and models of single engine aircraft that are land based. I can go in there, but I just have to go get what's called a minimum amount of time experience in those aircraft.
Wow. What is the minimum amount of hours, more or less, average?
It depends on the aircraft, and it depends on the requirements of who you're either renting the aircraft from or training with.
Okay.
You just go get an instructor that is trained. Like, I'm a single engine land instructor. I can train you to fly on little Cessnas and Pipers. They can have gear that doesn't come up, gear that does come up and go down. They can have the fancy computers. I can train you on those, but they have to be one engine, and they have to be land based. So I can't train you to fly a seaplane right now. That's in the future. So stay tuned. And then I also can't. Right now, my rating, I only have a CFI rating, so I can't train you to fly in the clouds. But stay tuned for that one too. I'm going to get that rating.
Awesome. Now, what does land-based means? Like, what's the difference between? For me, like people that we don't know much about planes. So, what does that mean?
I can train you to land at a land-based airport.
Oh,
with a paved runway. I can't train you to land on a lake or on the water.
Water. Perfect. I got it now. Okay. Thank you. Next one. Okay. So here's a weird datum that I just want you to tell me, is that true or not? Is it true that switching the pilot paper manuals to iPad, like they could save 1.2 million in fuel? This is a datum by American Airlines. I mean, is that true? How many manuals do you carry?
Well, they have a lot of reference documents, a lot of charts, the beauty of the digital electronic flight bag is you can carry all of that. You used to have to carry what you needed just for the flight, but it was a lot of stuff, and it adds to the weight. Adds to the weight of the stuff you're carrying. You want to minimize as much weight, especially in a small single-engine aircraft. But the iPad is awesome. I've got it. The digital flight bag is just so handy because you can carry everything and anything under the sun, reference material-wise, that would pertain to your flight and flight in general. I mean, you can carry your whole library.
So people that are not familiar, with flights, like how many manuals do you carry? I never thought about that, but makes sense. If you have anything happening, you need to refer to materials. But how many manuals does a normal commercial flight carry on it?
I don't know what the airline guys do, but I mean, I know for me, if I'm flying, you can't fly that far in a Cessna, but in one leg, I could carry just charts and a map. It used to be a paper chart and a little book for my instrument. Cause I can fly instrument, just not train people instrument. But the instrument procedures, there are procedures that kind of help you safely descend below the clouds to land. And then you still got your gear that you have to do, but like the reference material, you wouldn't always carry all the books. There's a couple other books you got to carry. It's just so much handier to have it digitally. It's very. I can give you everybody's got a different amount of how many publications they would carry.
Correct.
It's better. I like the digital flight bag, is what we call it, electronic flight bag. Makes
total sense. Now, question that I found really interesting. So is it true, and let me know if you know, because I think it's more commercial, this question. Is it true that the pilot and co-pilots are required to eat different meals in case of food poisoning?
I personally don't know because I'm not experienced in the airline world, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never would thought about it. And then what is the average speed in kilometers per hour of the planes you fly, like a Cessna?
I don't know about kilometers, but we fly around 100. I think we can maybe cruise 100, 110 knots, maybe. That's about 120-ish miles per hour. Depends on the aircraft. It depends also on the engine.
120 miles per hour is not that fast.
No, it's not, but it is fun. And you got to remember, I don't have red lights up there.
Oh, there you go.
And you're going straight line. So, the road is wide, but up in the air, you go straight point A to point B.
Makes sense. Really, Walter, thank you so much. One last question, because I want our viewers and our listeners to find you online. So where can you be found online? And however, I'm going to put all that data below so you guys can find him in order to take flying classes. What other services do you give?
Right now, it's I'm focused on the flight training, anything aviation related. If you have a question, they can reach out to me and I will help them find the answer. And if I can assist them, if I can, I'll definitely make sure I point them in the right direction. But you can, right now, I only have Facebook and Instagram. On Facebook, you can find me at Skyway Bound Aviation. And on Instagram, you can find me at Skyway bound and aviation. So skyway.bound.aviation. And that's a great way to get in touch with me. I do have a website coming eventually, but I don't have time.
Don't say anything. You will create the time. No, I'll make sure. That's right. I'll make sure to put your email and phone number below. Walter, thank you so much. It's really a treat to have you. And keep on expanding. We want to see that training growing. I am going to contact you myself.
I love it. I appreciate it. Anybody looking for flight lessons in the Tampa Bay area, even if you're not from the Tampa Bay area, let me know, because you can come here and stay short term. And I actually got a beach rental if you want to stay here and take flight lessons. So
there you go. Thank you so much. That's right. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on 10 Exit. Life and business as usual, never again. We love always hearing from you. Please feel free to send Marina an email, marina@marinasimonbrand.com. Your input and comments are always welcome, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you like the podcast, you can always subscribe to it. Remember, the best way to predict the future is to create it.